It's no exaggeration to say that life on Earth would be far more terrifying if dinosaurs still roamed the planet. But what if I told you that long before the age of dinosaurs, Earth was ruled by creatures even larger, fiercer, and more horrifying? From colossal serpents to monstrous denizens of the deep, and beasts that seem to have crawled straight out of a nightmare, these were animals far more terrifying than dinosaurs themselves. Dunkleosteus. Some of the most fearsome creatures to ever exist lived beneath the waves, and Dunkleosteus was certainly one of them. This gigantic fish thrived during the late Devonian period, roughly 370 to 360 million years ago, an era often called the Age of Fishes. This was long before the rise of dinosaurs during the Mesozoic era, which spanned approximately 245 to 66 million years ago, encompassing the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods. Dunkleosteus measured between 8 and 10 meters long, with a streamlined, shark-like body and a head encased in thick armor plates. Despite its savage appearance, it lacked true teeth, but that didn't make it any less deadly. Instead, it possessed 2 long, razor-sharp, bony blades that could crush nearly anything in their path. It preyed on fish, sharks, and even others of its own kind. Its jaws functioned like a pair of shears, with the blades grinding together each time the mouth closed. Scientists estimate its bite force may have exceeded 3,600 kilograms per square inch, reaches, while a lion's bite reaches only about 290 kilograms. However, Dunkleosteus had one fatal weakness, its insatiable appetite. Fossils of this creature are often found alongside remains of partially digested prey, suggesting it may have gorged itself to death. Perhaps it's a relief to know that this armored terror has been extinct for hundreds of millions of years. Helicoprion. If you think Dunkleosteus was terrifying, wait until you hear about Helicoprion. This ancient marine predator lived around 270 million years ago, grew between 6 and 8 meters long, and was at the center of one of paleontology's longest-running mysteries. It all began when scientists discovered strange spiral-shaped fossils that resembled petrified candy rolls. In 1899, Russian geologist Alexander Petrovich Karpinsky named the species Helicoprion after determining the fossils were the teeth of a shark-like fish. He originally believed this tooth haul was located at the tip of the snout, resembling a curled trumpet. But for more than a century afterward, scientists could not agree on its true position, ISAB. Some thought it belonged to the lower jaw, others suggested the dorsal fin, or even deep within the throat. It wasn't until 2013 that a team led by scientist Leif Tapanila from Idaho State University finally solved the mystery. They discovered that the tooth spiral actually occupied the entire lower jaw, functioning much like a circular saw blade. As the jaws closed, the spiral of teeth would roll backward, slicing through prey like a mechanical saw. The largest fossil ever found had a jaw over 60 centimeters in diameter. Fortunately, this nightmarish creature vanished about 225 million years ago. Terrorbirds. Even the name terrorbird is enough to send a chill down your spine. After the asteroid wiped out the great predators, like Tyrannosaurus rex and Velociraptor, the terrorbirds rose to become the dominant hunters of South America. And they held that title for 60 million years. They could stand up to 3 meters tall, with powerful legs and a beak capable of snapping a horse's spine in a single strike. When South America was still an isolated continent, the herbivorous mammals living there had virtually no natural predators, allowing these monstrous birds to reign unchecked. With pickaxe-like beaks, they attacked from above, striking down and crushing their victims' skulls. Their legs, equipped with massive claws, could deliver fatal kicks. Over their 60 million years of dominance, as many as 17 species of terrorbirds appeared and disappeared until they finally went extinct about 2.5 million years ago. Platybelodon. If you ever wanted to turn an ordinary elephant into a creature of nightmares, just replace its trunk with a giant spoon, and you would have Platybelodon. This bizarre animal lived between 8 and 20 million years ago and looked as though it had been imagined by a child with a wild sense of creativity. Its lower jaw featured 2 broad, flattened tusks that fused together into a massive, shovel-like structure. At first, scientists believed it used this spoon to scoop and rake up soft vegetation from swamps. But in 1992, paleontologist David Lambert proposed a new idea, that the animal used it like a scythe to cut branches clean off trees. Platybelodon roamed across Asia, Africa, and North America during the Miocene epoch, feeding on leaves and grasses by gripping branches with its trunk. Since soft tissue rarely fossilizes, our understanding of this strange creature is a rare stroke of luck. Its fossils are often found near rivers, places where carcasses could be buried quickly and preserved for millions of years. Andrewsarchus. It's hard to imagine that anything with the name Andrew could be more terrifying than a dinosaur, but Andrewsarchus managed to do just that. Although a complete skeleton has never been found, a skull nearly 1 meter long, discovered in Mongolia in 1923, revealed that it was a colossal predator. The explorer Roy Chapman Andrews, who led the expedition, named it Andrewsarchus mongoliensis in his own honor. Based on its skull structure and its relation to the genus Mesonyx, scientists estimate Andrewsarchus measured around 5 meters in length, nearly 2 meters tall, and weighed over a ton. Its enormous jaws were equipped with crushing teeth capable of breaking bone with ease. It is considered the largest terrestrial carnivorous mammal to have ever lived. Surprisingly, its closest living relatives are hippopotamuses and whales. While scientists still debate whether it was an active predator or a scavenger, one thing is certain: no one would ever want to meet it in the wild. Titanoboa. If you're afraid of snakes, now is the time to look away. About 60 million years ago, in the swamps of what is now Colombia, there slithered the largest snake in Earth's history, Titanoboa. Reaching nearly 15 meters in length and weighing over a ton, Titanoboa was a serpent 10 times the size of a modern green anaconda. Unfortunately, or perhaps thankfully, it never encountered Tyrannosaurus rex, as it appeared only a few million years after the dinosaurs' extinction. In its own time, Titanoboa ruled vast tropical forests where every creature was larger and more formidable than those of today. In keeping with the everything was bigger theme of the era, Titanoboa grew to a size that seemed to defy the limits of physics. All living creatures evolve within the constraints of gravity, and the only reason giants like the 30-meter blue whale can exist is because water supports their immense weight. Scientists believe Titanoboa used this same principle, relying on buoyancy to reach such gigantic proportions. It was likely too massive to move easily on land, spending most of its time submerged, more like a colossal water boa than a land-dwelling snake. Imagine swimming in a river and seeing a shed snakeskin stretching 10 meters along the bank. That thought alone is enough to send chills down your spine. As for its diet, the answer is simple: anything it wanted. Titanoboa was a true apex predator, killing with sheer constriction power. It likely preyed on large reptiles, including giant turtles and prehistoric crocodiles. The reason for its extinction remains a mystery, but one thing is certain: modern humans would stand little chance if it were still alive today. Eucalypterus. Most eurypterids, sea scorpions belonging to the arthropod group, were small, no larger than a human hand. The terrifying exception was Eucalypterus, a monstrous predator that lived about 460 million years ago during the Silurian period. This creature could grow over 2.5 meters long, making it the largest arthropod ever known. Imagine the facehugger from Alien, only much bigger and swimming as fast as a shark, and you'll have a good idea of what Eucalypterus looked like. Its segmented, paddle-shaped body resembled that of a modern horseshoe crab, but on an enormous scale. Eucalypterus moved with surprising agility underwater, using its paddle-like hind limbs to chase prey with incredible speed. It also possessed massive, spring-loaded pincers capable of snapping shut on passing fish. One claw fossil discovered in 2007 measured 45 centimeters across. If Eucalypterus were alive today, it could probably crush a human skull like a walnut between its claws. The reign of the eurypterids, including Eucalypterus, came to an abrupt end during the Permian extinction event, roughly between 299 and 252 million years ago, when over 96% of marine life on Earth was wiped out. Phoberomys pattersoni. You may have noticed that many prehistoric animals were simply supersized versions of creatures still living today. A perfect example of this is Phoberomys pattersoni, the largest rodent ever to walk the Earth. This giant rodent stretched about 3 meters long, with a tail adding nearly 2 more. Fossils have been found across Argentina, Brazil, and Venezuela. While its closest relatives are the gentle guinea pigs, Faberomys more closely resembled today's capybara, rebelom, only magnified many times over. Based on skeletal remains, scientists estimate it weighed around 800 kilograms, about the same as a full-grown American bison. Its hind legs were strong and sturdy, while the forelegs were smaller and more delicate, suggesting it could sit upright on its haunches while feeding, using its front limbs to grasp vegetation. Like the capybara, it had deep jaws and sharp incisors adapted for chewing tough plant matter. Although herbivorous, its nearly 30-centimeter-long incisors could inflict serious injury if provoked. Faberomys once dominated wetlands and riverbanks until its extinction about 8 million years ago. So, the next time you jump at the sight of a mouse scurrying across your floor, remember there was once a time when rodents were as big as cows. Hallucigenia. It's not uncommon for paleontologists to struggle when trying to reconstruct the true appearance of a creature that vanished hundreds of millions of years ago. But in the case of hallucigenia, the confusion went far beyond that. Scientists spent more than 50 years just trying to figure out which end was its head. One look at this bizarre creature, less than 2 centimeters long, is enough to understand why. In 1977, British paleontologist Simon Conway Morris examined a peculiar fossil originally unearthed 66 years earlier from the Burgess Shale in the Canadian Rockies. At first, it had been classified as a type of annelid worm related to leeches and earthworms. Morris disagreed. He believed the strange organism walked on rows of thin, spiked legs and had a series of tentacle-like structures sprouting from its back. Because of its utterly surreal appearance, he named it hallucigenia. However, in 1991, researchers Lars Ramskjöld and Hu Xiangguang literally turned Morris's interpretation upside down. What he had thought were tentacles were actually legs, while the legs on its back were defensive spines. It wasn't until 2015 that Cambridge University's Martin Smith used electron microscopy to finally identify the creature's true head, complete with tiny eyes and a grotesque smile, one that seemed torn straight from a prehistoric nightmare. Although scientists still don't know exactly what hallucigenia ate, the ring of teeth around its mouth was likely used to suck in water and small particles of food. Barely the size of a fingertip, it remains one of the strangest and most unsettling creatures ever discovered. Arthropleura. Most people already find multi-legged creatures disturbing, but hundreds of millions of years ago, insects and their relatives reached sizes that defy imagination. The most terrifying of them all was Arthropleura, a giant millipede over 2.5 meters long that roamed the Earth during the late Carboniferous period, roughly between 359 and 299 million years ago. Though Arthropleura was likely a harmless plant-eater, feeding on rotting vegetation much like modern millipedes, that does little to make it less frightening. Fossil trackways show that it could move remarkably fast, hundreds of massive legs rippling in synchronized motion as it weaved through dense forests, dodging roots and fallen branches. It was the largest invertebrate ever to live on land, meaning it had virtually no natural predators. Its segmented body was so flexible that it could lift its front section to defend itself, possibly even raising high enough to look a human in the eye. These enormous creatures vanished not long after the Carboniferous ended, when the planet's once humid climate began to dry out and the vast rainforests disappeared. So, why don't we see giant bugs like this today? The leading theory is that prehistoric arthropods could grow so large because of the higher oxygen concentration in Earth's atmosphere. During the time of Arthropleura, the planet's swampy forests boosted atmospheric oxygen levels to nearly 30%, about 1.5 times higher than today. So, if anyone ever claims climate change isn't real, you can show them this giant centipede as proof that environmental change is no myth. If you had the chance to bring one of these prehistoric monsters back to life, which would you choose? Let me know your answer in the comments, and thank you for watching until the very end.